Biden formally accepting the Democratic presidential nomination last night.
If you entrust me with the presidency, I will draw on the best of us, not the worst. So it's with great honor and humility, I accept this nomination for President of the United States of America.
The former vice president swiping at President Trump during his acceptance speech as well.
While I'll be a Democratic candidate, I will be an American president. I'll work hard for those who didn't support me. That's the job of a president, to represent all of us, not just our base or our party.
Joining me right now is former South Carolina Congressman, Fox News contributor, and author of the bestseller, Doesn't Hurt to Ask, Using the Power of Questions to Communicate, Connect, and Persuade. Trey Gowdy is here. Trey, congrats on the book. Thanks very much for joining us.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Maria.
First, let me ask you to react to the DNC. What are you hearing from your standpoint? What struck you most?
Well, up until last night, it was an ad hominem attack on the character of the president. Whether or not that's calculated to keep your base energized or whether it's calculated to persuade uncommitted voters, it was hard to tell. I think the mistake Republicans make, Maria, is when you set expectations incredibly low, like that the person is not lucid. Every now and again, they will meet your low expectations. Here's the good news. Americans have really short memories. So whatever bounce comes out of this convention will be over with in 2 weeks, and whatever bounce comes out of the Republican convention will be over 2 weeks after that. And then we'll have a traditional campaign, hopefully about issues and not about personalities. But I didn't hear a lot of policy last night. I have a plan to have a plan is what I heard last night.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the point that I've been making, Trey, because you're not hearing any specifics, but you're hearing a lot of trashing of President Trump. And so can they win on the idea, well, vote for me because I'm not Trump? That's what they did back in 2016 with Hillary, and we know how that went.
Yeah, I think the only difference is Joe Biden is less unlikable than Hillary Clinton. I think Hillary Clinton had a truth deficit. We don't know what her policies are, and we don't know whether or not you really believe them because there was a truth, a credibility issue. So I think Republicans are going to need to do more than just run against Joe Biden. But if the media is not making him say what to say my economic plan is jobs, I can come up with that. Some of my wife's first grade students can come up with that. That's your economic plan is jobs? He's going to have to be pressed on details, and we need to press him on law enforcement and law and order. I hear a lot of equivocation between violent protesters and cops, and most Americans, that is not a tough call for most of us. We're going to side with law and order.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a moment, because you look at some of the large cities in our country being taken down, being taken apart, destruction of federal property, destruction of our cities, crime, death, shootings. What is the federal government's responsibility here, Trey? Who is going to institute law and order if the governors and the mayors in these locales are allowing it to continue and not supporting the police forces?
Well, it is their job. Most crime is state and local. 90-something% of it is state and local. But we saw this week, even though the mainstream media buried it, Bill Barr announced indictments. And there are federal violations, be it firearms, be it arson, be it explosives, be it drug trafficking. There are federal statutory violations that Bill Barr is enforcing, but most crime is state and local. Here's a dichotomy for you, Maria. This week, we saw an African-American man who'd been elected president twice, and then we saw an African-American female who's been nominated to be one heartbeat or one elusive moment away from the presidency. That's the country the far left wants to burn down. So that's the country that they want to disassemble the institutions. We made a lot of progress. I wish they would acknowledge some of that progress and not trying to burn the country down.
Yeah, and where is John Durham? So U.S. Attorney Durham is set to interview former CIA Director John Brennan today, Trey, as part of his criminal investigation into the origins of the Russia probe. You've done so much work on this as head of the Oversight Committee, just days after the Senate Intel Committee released a final report on the Russia meddling, which found, once again, no collusion between President Trump and Russia. This is the third such report. We heard from Michael Horowitz, same thing, and we heard from Robert Mueller, same thing. Now, you interviewed John Brennan back in the day when you were head of the Oversight Committee, and he said he did not use the dossier. Did he mislead you? What are your expectations out of Durham, and how important is this interview today of John Brennan in your view?
Well, Brennan was either inaccurate or incompetent. Those are his choices, because they certainly knew the Crown material or the dossier existed. We now know it was used. If he was so out of touch as to not know that, that's not a great defense that I was so incompetent I didn't know what was used in the FISA application. Durham's doing it the right way, Maria. I mean, when I was in the House, I wish we had had the documents. I wish the FBI had given us all the documents, but they did not. Durham has the ability to go get them. He ain't got to ask for them. He can go get them, and documents will be what makes this case. I would love to sit in on that interview. My suspicion is John Brennan knew exactly what was happening, exactly when it was happening.
Well, the other thing is the non-investigation into Hillary Clinton's email scandal. You also oversaw the probe into that. Let me ask you a question, which I've been asking my guests recently. We know from Senator Ron Johnson, and he has seen a lot of the declassified documents. We know from Johnson that he has seen emails that say, to President Barack Obama from Hillary home server. So Barack Obama knew that Hillary was using this unsecured server at home. My question to you is, knowing now what we know about China's espionage campaign and China's meddling, stealing of intellectual property for so long, is there any way at all that the Chinese Communist Party did not know that the Secretary of State and the President of the United States were using an unsecured server to communicate? And what kind of vulnerability did that put us in?
Well, if you'll remember, Comey, that infamous press conference he had, there were many iterations of that presentation he gave us. And in some of those earlier drafts, he addressed the very real probability that a hostile foreign actor knew about her email arrangement, and he even included a sentence that President Obama was the recipient of emails from this account, and then they were deleted out. So if you need one more reason to question the objectivity of Jim Comey, the FBI initially had it in the drafts, and then they took it out because they didn't want us to know back in 2016 what President Obama was doing and what Chinese foreign actors may have done. I don't know that Durham's going to answer that question for us. I already know the answer. The FBI knew that President Obama knew about it, and they decided to edit that out of their press conference.
Unbelievable. All right, before you go, real quick on the book, the new book is Doesn't Hurt to Ask, Using the Power of Questions to Communicate, Connect, and Persuade. Congrats on the book. You want to give us a little teaser here?
Well, it's just how to win your next conversation, whether it's Thanksgiving lunch, whether it is for a job promotion, or whether it's politics or culture. I was in a courtroom for almost 2 decades, Maria. How to make your case, how to be persuasive and effectively communicate, and then how to use questions to do it.
And you do that so well. Trey Gowdy, it's great to see you this morning, sir. Thank you. We will see you soon.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Trey Gowdy joining us. Coming up, the